Hi there, welcome to the Breakfast Club. It's Kazoom. I'm very late again. I was originally going to just not make a video this week, but I decided to make one anyway. I'm doing a lot better than I was last week, so if you're wondering why this looks all messed up or whatever, I just got up. So, something that I find the most demotivating when it comes to making videos is when people will just complain about the way that I've worded something. Oh, well, you're making generalizations. I don't like these generalizations. Well, my comment is, well, do you know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Then why are you complaining about the way that I'm wording it? Why not argue my points instead of arguing, well, you made these generalizations? I mean, are these generalizations made to the point where you don't understand what I'm saying? Okay, that's fair. But some of the people making these complaints I know are really, really intelligent. I'm 95% sure that they actually understand what I'm saying. They just want to go into this, I don't know what to call it. It's like this stuffy, I'm better than you, I'm more formally educated than you, and I need to let you know that you're sounding not very educated because you worded it like this. Okay, fine. I don't really care whether I sound that educated. I don't. I'm just a guy on the internet complaining about things, talking about my opinions. I'm just some schmuck on the internet. That's all I am. I try to word things in ways that I hope people will understand. I want to get to my points quickly. And when it's been established that, hey, you can't word things quickly without making generalizations, and that's agreed on, but then there's still the arguments. And it's just like, look, I don't make videos to act like some sort of college professor. I don't make videos to emulate a term paper. That's not why I do them. I do them in hopes that those who haven't really thought about certain subjects very much might actually do some thinking. That's my goal. I just want to get people thinking. And for those that are in this mode where they, expect, a 20-minute preamble just to start talking about a subject. I mean, some of you, that's one of the things about formal education. It's like reading a manual to a program, reading it from front to back before you even start working with the program. I'm the kind of guy, I just start working with a program. And if there's something that I don't understand about the program, that's when I will reference the manual. I prefer it like in PDF or something so I can do a search. I use the manual as reference material, not as, something I read before I even start. Now, some people, they read it before they start, and their argument will be, well, that way I won't get frustrated when I'm working with the program. Well, people do things differently. Okay, personally, I don't want to waste my time reading stuff that 95% of it is stuff I already know. And when it comes to the manuals for a lot of programs, a lot of it's, 99.5% of stuff that I already know. I've used so many programs, it's just like, yeah, it's the same shit over and over again. There are common things in the interfaces. The only kind of programs I can't do that on are CLI programs, and that's exactly why I can't stand the CLI. Command line interface. I can't stand it. It's why I don't use Linux, because you have to use the CLI too much. Well, time to read a manual. Great. You can't experiment to learn. That's my main way of learning, is experimentation. Some people want to learn, some people learn best through formal means. I don't. I learn best through experimentation, thought experimentation. Creativity. Those are the ways that I learn. That's my method of learning. Everyone has their own ways. You go to look at some user's manual for some piece of electronics or a program, and it's like, yeah, I know that. Yes, 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 I know that. When are you going to get to the point? Well, All this has to be explained. Well, I'm not into that. I have no interest in that. And yes, we do live in a soundbite society, and I consider myself part of that. Things said in very short ways to get to the point. I don't want to waste my time with a bunch of minutia. I don't want to waste my time with things that I don't gain anything out of. And I don't think other people would gain anything out of either. And if you're the type of person who gains the most out of that type of thing, find a different channel, because my channel isn't going to be that type of thing. My channel is going to be geared more towards the people who process information more like I do. That's the great thing about this platform, is that you have these choices of different ways you can get information, get different viewpoints, From my perspective, I don't get the point in going into a lot of minutia to explain something. I mean, I feel the same way about, like, music theory. I know basic music theory, but my main thing is creating things. And I'm able to create types of music that you don't hear very often. I want to get into the meat and potatoes of music. I'm not into this thing of you have to label everything perfectly all the time. And the main important thing is, what can you do? What can you do with music? We can learn the theory of harmony. We can learn all the labels for everything, but none of those labels do any good if you're not actually able to create something. And that's kind of the stance I take on a lot of stuff. If someone asks you what a song sounds like, and you can't just give them an everyday kind of answer. You can't just say, well, it kind of feels upbeat here, in these parts, and in other parts it kind of goes a bit down tempo. It gets slow, it gets fast, it gets happy, it's sad. It has a hard beat to it at certain points. It has no rhythm to it at other points. It's a feel-good song at some points, and it's a sad song at other points. Something like that. If you can't explain that, and you just have to go into the theory of it and explain to them the scales that are used, the chords that are used, the time signatures that are used, all this stuff that's theory, and the person will just be like, well, what are you saying? And then you could still go on and on and on and on and on, and then eventually, well, they're like, yeah, but what does that mean? Yes, but what does that mean? Yes, but what does that mean? And you've now taken a half hour to explain something they just wanted a simple explanation for, and, they might get a slight understanding of what you mean, and then you'll sit there and act all proud because, look, I taught them some music theory. And it's just like, well, no, you taught them that you're pretentious and you don't know how to word anything in ways that people understand unless they have studied things the same way you have. And that's all that proves to me. If we want to communicate, let's communicate. If people want to dive into the specifics of something, that's on them. Or if they ask you specifics about something, yeah, sure, explain it as best as you can. But if you're just trying to go on an overview and show what your views are about something, why would you want to go into a bunch of fucking minutia for that? I mean, if that's your thing, great, fine. But don't expect everyone else to be into that. I'm sure not into that. What's the point in wording things and such to take so damn long to say, to get to what your meat and potatoes of your position is? What's the point in taking forever for that? Other than to be like, well, I'm more educated. I'm more, I don't even know what it is. Oh, well, if you word it the right way the first time, there's less of a chance of it offending people. Well, I take a middle ground on that sort of thing, okay? I'm not going to go out of my way to offend people, but I'm also not going to bend over backwards to make sure that I don't offend people. You got to find a balance in there somewhere. And you have to pick and choose what things you're going to make generalizations about so you can get to the meat and potatoes in a reasonable way. And what's sad to me is most of the people that make these kinds of complaints, well, you didn't word it the right way. You didn't word it the right way. Who also refuse to give someone the wording for it to be the right way because, well, no, the right way is to go into, let's take 3 hours to say something that would take 30 seconds, right? Most of the people making these complaints either don't make videos anymore, and they'll usually say, well, I don't like the way the platform is, I don't like how people respond, I don't like the toxic elements to this platform, or they don't make videos at all. They never have made videos, and yet they want to complain about this stuff. My comment to those that do this is, look, if you don't like the content that's out there right now, and you think there's much better ways of being able to do it, make your own fucking videos. Make your own videos. But there's nothing more demotivating, really, than these types of comments. Because it's saying, I'm not going to listen to anything you say. I'm just going to complain about the way you say it. I'm better than you. I know better than you. Okay, fine. Make your own content. Prove it. Prove that you can say these things this way, and you'll get a lot of people to listen, and you'll get a lot of people to think about things they didn't think about before. I mean, you've heard me complain about ponage channels. I obviously think that there's a point where just trying to pander to the audience and not caring whether you're actually giving information, yeah, that's a really bad thing too. There's two sides to this. There are two extremes to this. I want to be somewhere in the middle. I want to give a decent amount of information, but I want to make sure that I reach as large of an audience as I can. And I don't want to go out of my way to degrade people or do ponage on people or roast people. I just want to try to give information as best as I can in ways that I think will reach the most people. But if most of the stuff that you end up putting out ends up being like reading a 500-page manual, where almost everything that you're saying is stuff that people are already, well, yeah, I know that already. Yeah, I know that already. Yeah, I know that already. Or if it's not something that people know already, and it's just like superfluous information about something, like we're on the show Jeopardy or something. Oh, look, you need to know about the names and the dates, not the happenings. The happenings aren't as important as the names and the dates and all the minutia onto getting to the meat and potatoes. Just what? Why? If you think you can put out that kind of material and get a lot of people to listen, good on you. I don't personally have interest in that, because I'm not the type of guy to read the entire manual first before using a program. I just want to get into the meat and potatoes of the program. How does the program work? What are the advantages of this program? What are the disadvantages of the program? What are the things that are easy to do on the program? What are the things that are difficult to do on the program? What are the limitations? What can be done? So, I mean, if you're someone who thinks that the meat and potatoes aren't as important as the minutia on the way to getting to the meat and potatoes, then, everyone's got their thing, but don't expect everyone else to go with that. Myself, I don't really care how something is worded, provided their intent isn't obviously to insult or, make people feel like shit about themselves. I don't care if someone uses the word nigger or faggot or whatever, if it's obvious that it's just part of their vocabulary. Now, if it's something where you can obviously tell that the person is trying to be as insultive as possible, that's a different thing. If someone's trying to just do a ponage on someone, yeah, that's a different thing. But if someone just has, different ways of wording things, that's just how they talk, I don't care. I'm going to try to listen to them. There are a number of people on my channel who leave comments that, I completely disagree with their positions. And some of the ways they word things, a lot of people might consider toxic. But I'm like, well, I can tell that this person is not trying to be toxic. They just have different opinions and they just word things differently. And I accept that. It's when people will purposely go out of their way to be toxic and then pretend that they're not. People who will just give out pure insults with no actual content and then act like that's an argument. It's like, no. And that's what you find on most of the ponage channels most of the time. That's why I just don't like the whole Ponage channel concept. I don't. It's not about learning. It's not about getting anyone to see anything. It's not about trying to really show anyone anything other than, well, look, I can make fun of people who have opinions that I think are dumb. It's hard to get comments that are more demotivating than it seeming like, well, I'm not going to listen to anything you say. I'm not going to argue anything you say. I'm just going to argue the way that you worded it. And you can give excuse, well, you know, I might know what you mean, but others might not. Well, let them worry about that. Okay, if you know what I mean, argue against what I'm saying or trying to say. You know, that's my view on it. Don't try to force everyone to do things the way you do. Everyone has their own way of learning. Everyone has their own way of processing information. And for you to claim that your way is better than other people's ways, you know, fuck you. That's what I've got to say. There is a friend that I had known since high school that 2 years ago I dropped friendship with because he was just constantly in this mindset of, well, my way is better than yours. I do things all in the formal way. It's all, it's like, you know, and he'd have the gall to complain about certain elements of about my music and the way that I approach music, because I like to approach it from a more creative standpoint, and he doesn't write his own music at all. And then he got upset with me one time when I want to show you a song I'm working on. Well, he didn't work on any of his own song. He figured out how to transcribe some sort of classical tune to MIDI. Oh, look, I'm listening to a classical MIDI song. And I'm just supposed to be so impressed with that. And and he was really offended when I said, well, it just sounds like a classical song done in MIDI. Oh man, he got so offended at that. Just like I just mortally wounded him. And I'm like, he would constantly tell me things like, well, you know, you step too far away from what people know. You need to write music for other people and not be so damn selfish. You're such a selfish person. Constantly tell me that sort of thing. He basically had the viewpoint that creativity is selfish and arrogant because, you know, how dare I think I can come up with something different than other people have. And that shit pisses me off. It really does. And just everything about whenever I'd come to see him would be him telling me how terrible of a person he thought I was. And the moment I would turn it around and say, well, look at these things about you, man, he can't take what he dishes out. And I don't put up with that. If you're going to dish something out constantly, you better be able to take the kind of shit that you dish out, or fuck you. Needless to say, he doesn't have any friends that really talk to him much or come over or really anything. He has friends that use him. I mean, he's really good at fixing things, and he brags about how he's really good at fixing things, and people use him to fix things, and that's about it. Because his personality is something that nobody wants to be around. And he blames that, of course, on everyone else and not on himself. So I don't want to go on for a long time about this, but there are people out there who just have this attitude, like they're just so superior because they look at things a certain way. You know, I know that the way that I look at things and my approach on things has disadvantages. I know it obviously has disadvantages. It has advantages, it has disadvantages. Every kind of mindset that people have advantages and disadvantages. We shouldn't get some sort of attitude about, well, it has advantages in these areas, therefore it's superior. No, none of these mindsets are superior. Nobody's mindset is superior. We all just have our own ways, and that's what makes life great when it comes to dealing with other humans. It's because of all these different mindsets that we have. That's one of the beautiful things about life. That's my view on it. And when someone turns it into well, I'm superior, no, you're an asshole and fuck you. That's my view on it when people do that. So, anyway, enough of that. Thanks for watching. This video is longer than I intended it to be, so